Hello, I hope you're doing well, and in today's video, I will be reviewing Max Payne. Before we begin, if you would like to see more content like this, then please like and subscribe. So I will give you a quick recap of the story, just so that I can familiarize you with the story. I'm going to be reading a direct synopsis from IMDb, and these are not my words. Max Payne, a cop in the NYPD, returns home one day to find his wife and baby daughter murdered at the hands of drug addict High on a designer drug called Valkyr. After 3 years of working on the case, Max and his best friend Alex go undercover to bust a V deal. However, things go wrong, and Alex is suddenly killed, and Max is framed for his murder, hunted by the cops, and driven by determination to avenge his family. Max Payne sets out to uncover the truth behind his family's murder. I had some issues with this story, but I will get into that later. I don't usually talk about the sound in a video game unless the soundtrack is really good or if there are problems with the sound mixing. For this game, both are prevalent. The soundtrack is really well done. I especially love the main theme song that you hear in the main menu. It's a timeless soundtrack in my opinion. I will have to say though, that the sound is very inconsistent throughout the game. What I mean by this is that sometimes the music can be overwhelming, to the point where you can't even hear what Max Payne is saying. It can be very distracting, because I feel like for the story of this game, you really have to pay attention to what happens. Having the music louder than the voice actors can make it very hard to hear what they're saying. It's not just the music that's too loud either, because this game is placed in New York during a snowstorm when you're in outdoor settings. Sometimes the sound of the wind can overwhelm the voice acting. So how do I compare the graphics nowadays? I can't, because obviously the graphics aren't very good for this time. But I'm not really going to talk about that because it's really unfair to the game. Instead, what I'm going to do is pretend like I'm in the time this game was released. If I think with that mindset, the graphics in this game were really impressive, especially for the PlayStation 2. No, I'm not saying that PlayStation 2 games looked bad per se, but I will say that Max Payne had the higher end graphics for games back in the day. What can I say about the controls? Well, what I have to say about the controls is that they're perfectly fine the way they are. I am shocked at how well the game controls are, just because it was released 20 years ago, and the controls weren't up to par as they are nowadays. I am very impressed that to this day, the game's controls hold up, and it's very easy to control, and nothing is too hard to do control-wise. One thing that I would have liked though, for the PC version of this game, is controller support. I have no problem playing on keyboard and mouse. In fact, I actually found it easier to play this game on mouse and keyboard, rather than on controller. I played through Steam, and yes, they have third-party support for controllers, but it just doesn't feel great for this game. That's the only minor issue I had with the controls, but otherwise the controls were perfect. I find the gameplay for this game really well done, and it was a lot of fun to play. I like the amount of weapons that they had, but I found that I was only using like 3 or 4 weapons. I never really used the grenade launchers or the melee weapons. I honestly only found the grenade launchers like a last resort thing, and I never really had a purpose in the other levels, besides the last level from what I can think of. I only used the melee weapons once, just because you were actually kind of forced to use it, and I also used the melee weapons to smash smaller boxes to find ammo and painkillers. I found that the automatic guns were better to use against the harder enemies. And a quick tip is obviously aim for the head, but in this game, it honestly really helps. I mostly just use the shotgun, Desert Eagle, dual Berettas, and the Ingrams, and that was really it. The other neat aspect of this game was the bullet time, and I have to say that this bullet time is really well done. And again, especially for a 20-year-old game, I found for myself that I really only used bullet time in the most strenuous parts of the game. For instance, in the last level, there are 3 enemies who are firing rockets at you, so what I did was I used bullet time, and used my sniper rifle to shoot all of 3 of them in quick succession. If I did not have bullet time, I'm not sure how I would have gotten through that alive. So for me, that's all I really used bullet time for, was when I got into a really sticky situation. Otherwise, I just purely relied on my aim and quick reactions. To be fair though, I played this on mouse and keyboard, so it's probably not as essential to use bullet time as it would be if you were using a controller. I'm going to talk about my thoughts about this game, and I don't have much to say, but I will talk about the story itself. To me, the story was very confusing. I don't know what it is about the story that's confusing to me, but I think it was that it was too short, and they didn't go into enough explanation about certain things. I understood the basic parts, like Max Payne's family was killed, and in the end he finds out who killed his family and why. What I am unsure about is what was all of that stuff in the middle about. Why were we killing all the mob bosses and lieutenants? Was it because they were in the way, or did they have something to do with the murders? I'm not sure about that. What I did enjoy about this story though, was when Max Payne learned that he was actually in a computer game. I found that really weird and kind of meta. I hope in the future games that they still touch on the fact that he is in a computer game, but I've never played the other games, so I'm not sure if they do that or not. Max Payne was a really good game, and I enjoyed it. When I was a lot younger and wasn't really aware of the storyline, I enjoyed it then, and I really enjoy it now. I know this game wasn't really that popular back in the day, because this game only sold like 4 million copies, which in today's standards is not a lot. With the remake of Max Payne 1 and 2 coming, I really wanted to replay Max Payne, and I don't regret it. If you really want this game, you can purchase it on Steam with a bundle with Max Payne 2. I would highly suggest buying this game, especially if you want to get the remake, because I have a feeling that there will be a huge graphical difference, so it would be neat to see the differences. Anyways, the next game that I will be reviewing will be Max Payne 2, The Fall of Max Payne. Thank you all so much for watching, and see you in the next review.